Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Lives Transforming Video Training Series. Our series is based on the book Freedom by author Derek Wilder. My name is Brent Henderson. Derek, we just came back from lunch, and when we were riding in the car coming back here, I was telling you this funny story about there was this girl that I used to date years ago, back when I was in high school. And I had this souped-up car. It was an El Camino, and I had these big, like M50s on the back, real wide tires, if some of you remember those days. And so as I'm driving past her house, I beeped one day, and her cat, which was sitting on the front porch, it jumped like 3 feet straight up in the air. I know we got a good laugh out of it. Well, as I would go cruising like we used to do back in the day, you'd beep and let her know that you were coming by. Well, this cat, whenever it was outside, would jump up in the air. So one day I grabbed a buddy of mine and I said, "Hey, come with me. I got to show you this cat." So we're driving by her house, and there's two kids on bikes sitting right across the street. I didn't even pay attention to them at the time. I'm just looking for this cat. And as I laid on the horn, this cat, rather than jumping straight up in the air, this thing makes a beeline right for my rear tires of my truck. And I know some of you out there right now are cringing, and I'm sorry that it happened, but I couldn't stop. The cat ran under my rear tires, and I killed the cat. But I didn't notice these other kids. Well, about 2 days later, I noticed the engine symbols that are on each side of my hood were missing, and I didn't know what had happened to these. And so finally, the girl who I had been going out with told me. She said, "I took those, and I'm sorry, here they are." I said, "Well, why did you take those?" She said, "Well, I found out that you had killed my cat." And I played dumb. I said, "Like, what?" She said, "Well, there were two kids across the street, and they saw it and everything." And, I was so afraid that she would either hate me or want to break up with me that I didn't have the guts to tell her the truth of what I had done.
It does kind of remind me of the cats that I have at home, and depending on the day, I may actually want you driving by my house, especially last night at about 1 a.m. when my cat jumps on top of me in bed. However, one of the things we don't really focus on many times in a story like that is at the end of the day, you lied.
Yeah, I didn't tell her.
You didn't tell her. My dad always said, he goes, "Well, lying is something you tell me that's not true." But he would say, lying is also when you don't tell me something you should have.
Kind of like withholding.
That always made it very difficult to live with my dad. However, what we have is this action, and it's really an unhealthy action of lying. Most people would say that lying is an unhealthy action. Now, of course, the lying came because you already said what your emotion was. You were afraid.
I was afraid.
You were afraid, and the thought is something like, my girlfriend is going to hate me if she finds out I killed the cat.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have a thought that says, my girlfriend is going to hate me. It's causing the fear, and then the action is the lie. But below the thought, and in some of these training seminars, we're going to talk about the distortion within the thought, my girlfriend's going to hate me. However, below that thought is a belief. What we're doing over the next number of weeks is we're talking about some of these destructive beliefs that we have. And in your particular case, the thought, my girlfriend's going to hate me, was actually coming from a deeper seated belief system that said something like this: if my girlfriend finds out the real me, what really happened, what I really did, and then doesn't like me, that will make me somehow less of a person. It's really this belief system underneath it all that's causing your thought, oh my gosh, she's going to hate me. Then that moves you into this total fear. You think to yourself, oh, she's going to hate me. That's going to cause fear. And then that fear says, don't you tell her the truth.
Yeah.
Keep it from her. But if we change the belief, we change the thought, the emotion, and the action that goes with it. If you know the real me, you may not like me. And if you don't like me, then somehow I'm less of a person, is ingrained so deep within humanity. I remember talking with a pastor a couple years ago, and he was going through some of these very same challenges. You can imagine as a pastor, especially in the way churches are set up today, if your congregation doesn't like you, that's got to make you a failure.
Right.
And so many of the pastors that I coach struggle with getting their value feeling less of a person if the people don't like them. The irony is that just like with you, it leads to the unhealthy thoughts, unhealthy emotions, and then the unhealthy actions, the very opposite of what's going to be the healthy thing for the church organization. But it's easy to get wrapped up into that.
Yeah.
I mean, what if they don't like me? If they don't like me, then they're going to fire me. If they fire me, then I won't have a job. And if I don't have a job, I'll be a loser. My wife will leave me and my kids will... On and on and on and on and on, right?
Sounds like a country song, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So in Luke chapter 6, verse 26, there's an incredible little verse that Eugene Peterson paraphrases, and he says this: "There's trouble ahead when you live for the approval of others, saying what flatters them, doing what indulges them." Isn't that interesting? There's trouble ahead when you live only for the approval of others, saying what flatters them, doing what indulges them. In the New American Standards, it says this: woe, W-O-E, which is sorrow to the man.
Mm-hmm.
Woe to you when all men speak well of you. Now, if that doesn't fly in the face
Wow.
of what we've been brought up in, especially the Western culture, woe to you when all men speak well of you. In other words, if you're living a life where every person is speaking well of you, you must be doing everything you possibly can to get everyone to like you. So in Luke chapter 6, it says, "There's trouble ahead when you live for the approval of others, saying what flatters them, doing what indulges them. Popularity contests are not truth contests." And then it goes on to say, "Look how many scoundrel preachers were approved by your ancestors. Your task is to be true, not popular." We can't be true if we're concerned about being popular. We can't be truthful to our girlfriend if we're concerned about her liking us.
So how do we break free? Even though I didn't cause, I guess I did cause the cat to run out there. It wasn't my intention for that cat to go there. I would never have wanted that to happen. But even when I didn't want it to happen, I was still so afraid of what she would think of me that I withheld the truth. And even though I didn't maybe want it to happen, I was feeling so guilty, not so much from having run over the cat, but from having withheld from her the truth.
Well, yeah, at first you were feeling guilty because you ran over the cat.
Right.
But then secondly, you felt guilty for not telling her the truth.
Oh, and then there was the kids. They saw me run over it, so I felt guilty that they saw it. Yeah.
And so it just keeps piling and piling on top of each other. You asked a great question, which is, how do you get out of that cycle?
Yeah.
The only way to get out of that cycle is to move out of the lie that is the real me. If she knows the real me, then I'm less of a person. And to move towards the truth, which is pretty radical, really, if you think about it. Radical that says, my girlfriend, my wife, my friend, my peer, my father, my mother, their thoughts of me has nothing to do with whether I'm more of a person or less of a person.
Okay. Help me see that through the eyes of the Scriptures.
Sure. Romans chapter 8, verse 1 has this almost controversial verse in that it feels so disconnected from our reality at times. It says, "Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." Can you imagine if you believed that? If you believed there is no condemnation, there is no lesser of a person. You are not lesser of a person when you do wrong things. Imagine if you thought that. Now, I'm not saying you think that or believe that or could possibly agree, but imagine for a minute you believed it. Imagine that you believe there is no condemnation because you are in Christ Jesus. In other words, you have asked God into your life. He is in you. You are in Him. Now, imagine if the result of that was that there is no longer condemnation, not because of anything you did like running over a cat, but there's no condemnation because of what Christ did. Now, there's no condemnation to you.
So my emotion then, if I would have been living in that, might have been sorrow.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry for the cat. I'm sorry for you, for the kids.
Right.
But it wouldn't have been shame, guilt.
That's right. Now, and here's the thing. Many of us might think, well, shame and guilt, that's kind of a good thing. But what did the shame do? It moved you towards
Wanting to lie.
lying.
Yeah.
See, the thing of it is, He doesn't say there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus because somehow He's letting you off the hook.
Yeah.
He doesn't say there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus because He somehow wants you to sin more. He knows. God knows. that when you live in that shame, it will move you to sin, not away from sin. So imagine what it would be like if you believed there really is no condemnation because of what Christ did, not because of what you do or don't do. Now here's the ultimate paradox. You think, if I tell my girlfriend that, she's not going to like me.
Right.
But the ultimate irony is that if you're honest and truthful with your girlfriend, actually, what will happen?
She's probably going to move towards me because she can trust me now.
She's going to respect you because she can trust you.
Yeah, boy, I've learned that one. It's taken me a long time to get there.
Yeah. That's what's amazing about God's truth. It moves you towards community. It moves you towards obedience. It doesn't move you away from people, and it doesn't move you away from God, and it doesn't move you away from obedience. Yeah. That's the power of God's truth.
Yeah, and the more you trust someone, it's like the more I can love someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, this has been so powerful for me because, again, like I said, I've struggled sometimes with maybe not doing an overt lie or they've been more covert withholding, and I've done both. But being able to walk in this truth of when it doesn't matter what someone else thinks, the only thing that really matters is whether I'm walking with the Spirit of God or not. Guys, keep coming back. This is powerful stuff. And if you're like me, I know it's really hitting you right between the eyes. You're able to make, probably these stories your own. You've got your own stories like this. But next week's going to be really powerful. So make sure you come back with us again, and it's going to be about manipulation. And that's something I think probably most of us have done, and we probably do it on a daily basis.
I've been there.